All right, welcome. Welcome. This is the best meeting of the year, and I'm really excited that you're all here. So tonight we're going to present, the superintendent and her team are going to present the fiscal year 2020 budget. I'm going to talk through some they call them housekeeping items before we start, and then I also want to talk through the process that got us here. I won't talk long, but there are some things for anybody watching at home or anybody here that I do just want to emphasize in terms of the process and how we do this every year. Part of this is just kind of building institutional knowledge too, so that we know how this process works. So a couple things. We do have interpreters in the room. I believe we have two. Can you please introduce yourself?
Spanish interpreter.
Can you say also en español?
No, Miriam, en Spanish. Oh, en español, sí, soy. Me llamo Miriam de Burr y soy la intérprete de español.
Thank you. All right, so in terms of budget process, this process starts every year in December or January, and there is we have a well-oiled machine that Superintendent Skipper and Finance Director Korsky have a well-oiled machine here. The way that this works is the district will create a level service budget, and that service represents an equal number of services from one year to the next, equal number of services and programs, and the district provides that to us, and that begins our conversation. So we look at how much will it cost next year to do the same things that we did last year. And typically that number is higher because of increasing healthcare costs, increasing labor costs, and increasing contractual costs across the district. After the level service budget is created, then Superintendent Skipper and Finance Director Korsky will work with all principals and administrators and administrative leaders to understand their needs for the coming year. And so each principal and each department leader, department head, will create a list of asks. And those don't have dollars necessarily next to them, but they're typically programmatic or human capital asks, new positions, if you will. Throughout the month of March and April, and this year has been a little bit interesting because of some other processes that have been quite intense for our deliberation. In February, March, April, we had a lot of community engagement, not necessarily centered on the fiscal year 2020 budget, but centered on what our district needs. And so I know that I and my colleagues received a lot of feedback about what our district needs going forward. And typically, that's constant. Parents and thankfully so, are eager to let us know when we need to add some programs or pay attention to something. But all of those kinds of requests and asks are represented from the school committee to the district. So as parents come to us and say, hey, we need this or that at a certain school or in a certain program, we then aggregate all those asks and send them over to Superintendent Skipper and Finance Director Korsky, and they work with their team to determine, is that already addressed in what we're already building? Most of the times it is, or do we need to do something something a little bit different? So what you see tonight from the administration is a reflection of all of that work. In terms of process, we'll have this presentation tonight, and then next week on Tuesday, May 7th, at 6 p.m. at 8 Bon Air Street, this body will deliberate on what we saw tonight, and we'll basically have a conversation. Does this represent what we think this is what this district needs for the next school year? Do we need to add, subtract, or adjust somehow what we saw? And then on May 21 at 6 p.m., we'll have another deliberation meeting that will end in a vote. That's the plan is for that to end in a vote. And that will finalize the budget that will then be presented to the City Council. The City Council will hear our budget request sometime in the window of June 7 to June 28. That date has not yet been set, so we kind of have, sometime in the month of June. That date hasn't been set yet by the city council, and there's just a scheduling thing there, but it'll be in that window. And the way that that process works, we present to the city council, here's our budget, i.e. here's the total dollar amount that we're asking for as the biggest single thing that the city spends on, and here's what we're investing in. And what the city council does, they'll ask questions, and they'll either go up or down on the total number. I say that to emphasize what they don't do is start looking at line items and say, yeah, we'll approve it, but without, this new position. It's an up or down vote on the whole thing. If it were to be a down vote, we would then have to huddle and regroup and present something different. Over the last at least 5 years that I've been here, the city council, formerly the aldermen, have been very generous in the city, and the mayor and commissioner have been very generous in supporting the school district. Finally, budget documents were posted online on Friday, April 26th. So last Friday, they've been up for almost a week, which is, I think, at least in the recent history, that's the longest amount of time before this presentation that they've been posted. So we do thank the administration for that. And they were updated slightly yesterday, not a big deal. Somerville.k12.ma.us/finance is where you'll find them. At the end of this presentation, we'll open it up for public comment. We have a sheet over here. If you want to speak, put your name on it, and that's what we'll go by. And everybody will get a couple minutes at the microphone to share what they share your reaction. And at that time, I'll talk about a couple rules, if you will, for request rules. And then that is it for now. So thank you for coming. I'm going to turn it over to Finance Director Gorski. Hold on one second. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Thank you. So on May 7th, we deliberate, and on May 21st, we plan to vote. And those two meetings are Finance Committees of the Whole, which is really the whole school committee. There are two additional opportunities after tonight for the public to weigh in. If you hear something tonight, maybe you don't immediately want to say something. On May 13th and May 20th, you will have the opportunity to come to City Hall during a normal school committee meeting, and we always open those up with public comment. So similar to this, you would show up maybe 5 minutes early, get your name on the list, and then you get a couple minutes to say what you wanted, perhaps in response to what you see today. So May 13 and May 20, those meetings will be at City Hall at 7 p.m. So I'll turn it over to Finance Director.
Great, thank you. Welcome to the public hearing on the district's proposed FY20 budget. I'm Fran Gorski, the Finance Director. I've been with the district for just under a year. Tonight's presentation is part of a thoughtful process that began in late fall and continued through the spring as we met with principals and department heads to confirm their staffing plans and to discuss their requests going into the next school year. We discussed the top priorities that came out of those budget meetings with the school committee, and school committee members have had the opportunity to weigh in on their priorities that they've heard from their constituents. The budget is our spending plan for the upcoming school year, the statement of our values as a district, and reflects the goals of the school committee. As we go through the presentation, you will see there is a clear focus on equity and access. I'd like to introduce our Assistant Finance Director, Jim White, who has spent countless hours working on the budget. Joe, you can see that. Joan has been with the district for over 2 decades, starting in finance, then as our payroll manager, before assuming her current role last July. Her hard work and institutional knowledge have been an invaluable resource for me, so thank you for that. I want to thank the cabinet members who are presenting tonight. I couldn't have put together the proposed budget without their input and attendance at our many budget collaborative meetings. And a special shout out to our Director of Student Services, Rich Malillo, who is retiring at the end of the school year. With all that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Mary Skipper.
Thank you, Fran. I can honestly say that it has been a true pleasure to work this year with Fran and with this team. When I think back to the first year that I did the budget, and the custom was to have the superintendent present everything, it felt very artificial because the work that happens in this district is seated right here. these are the leaders of the district. So I'm very proud, a little emotional about it, and it was just wonderful to see Fran be able to kick it off. So with that, I'd like to also thank school committee. In this district, honestly, we have a school committee that's devoted to ensuring a transparent and collaborative process. And so the amount of time we spend together talking about the budget and developing it over the course of what really is from January on is a tremendous amount of time and really does allow for a full collaborative process. I'd like to give a special thanks to Dan Futrell, who now for several years has been the chair of finance. Again, it's been a pleasure to work with you. So in terms of our vision statement, as we ground the budget, what Fran had spoken about was that this is really, the budget is a value statement, and in many ways it is. And it reflects the vision of the district, which we all know. But just to highlight a few things, we talk about the whole child. We talk about here in Somerville the importance of intellectual, social, emotional, physical well-being of children. We also talk about other things, such as street skills. We talk about innovation. We talk about inspiring and diversity. And we talk about empowering our young people to make sure that they are contributing members of the community now and of the future. The school committee itself has 6 goals. And again, the public may be familiar, we certainly are intimate with them. These 6 have remained intact, and it's what we strive for every day, and certainly the budget supports them. Presentation are supported through the budget for that. And engagement with the community, and this means families and the broader community. Much of our work around diversity, much of our work around equity this past several years, and that we will build on in this budget, is really. And then continuing, relative to the goals, we talk about certainly how we measure things, because we know what we measure matters. So someone who's been a leader around whole school quality now for several years, and we continue that work through the MCIEA consortium. Jack Snyder's work has set a wonderful benchmark for us with that. But it's also around performance tasks. As we go down the road of project-based learning, it's really important that our staff are trained relative to the performance-based tasks. So that being part of that consortium has been key, and there's certainly dollars in the budget as well as grant dollars to support that going forward. In terms of the comprehensive plan for universal kindergarten, 4 years ago when I began, we were really focused through the good work of Lisa Q and her staff around universal K readiness, and then we realized the need to move that all the way back to birth. And so we've really now developed a birth to K readiness model that we partner with the city, Davidson and her staff, and SFLC. And then finally, our human capital strategies. And so this really gets into our recruitment of the best staff that is diverse and represent our district and our community, developing that staff and certainly retaining it. We'll hear a little bit later on from Karen Woods, who is our educational developer. So these are the 6 goals of school committee. And this is really what the budget's grounded in as we attempt to move that work forward. So in terms of the budget guidelines, we set these 4 years ago. Prior to that, there wasn't clear guideline. Our feeling was that as we approach the budget cycle, it's important that, first of all, it's for all students, that it is all pre-K to K, and that there's a focus on classrooms and supportive classrooms. Certainly relative to kindergarten, all the way back to birth to kindergarten, that we're focusing on that readiness. That when we speak of college and career, we emphasize the and, that we're talking about having students who have skills and opportunities in both areas. A very full, inclusive, collaborative, and really adaptive process of the budget that begins very early in the year, and then by the end of that process is a much different budget than what we began with. That certainly we're complying with everything, and we're aware of all our legal compliances relative to special ed or to English language learners. That we help the public understand there's been a big shift in state and federal funding, and as such, some of the budget has had to come on to the local. About $2 million difference in Somerville's budget, where the state actually fully fund all of the special education, English language learner homeless commitments that are out there. And so we work very hard to close that gap, not just with local dollars, but with grant dollars. And then we do an all funds approach. And so you'll hear Mr. Gorski talk about why our per capita is so much higher. And that is because we're dealing with all funds, including not only state and federal, but our grants. In terms of the process, Just to give the public kind of a more of a concrete look that Mr. Futrell referenced, in the fall, our work really is to make sure that schools have a concrete spending plan for the dollars that they've been allocated. So we spend time with our school leaders and with their committees to ensure that we know what that spending plan looks like. In the winter, we actually start a review. So this is where we begin with what we've put in as budget collaboratives. And those budget collaboratives happen in each building, and they're representative with the principal and their leadership team of the rest of the community and the ideas that their school community have to forward their school. We also link it through Ken Young's work around the school improvement plans, because the idea of the budget is that it should support those plans. In the spring, we kick off, so really in January we do double budget meetings per month, and then in the spring we really start to make in a concrete way the staffing plans, really try to understand what we want to focus in on for priorities relative to the initiatives, and then we actually hold a very important meeting with the City Council, which helps us to understand the broader finances of the city. And then in May and June, as we are now, we have this hearing, and then from here forward, both school committee and the City Council will vote. So that is a very comprehensive and elongated budget cycle, but it really does afford a process that yields the best budget. And so now my team is going to be coming up, and each one will be presenting different slides, and as such, they'll introduce themselves and what they do in the district. But we're going to begin with just a little bit of highlights so that people can understand in terms of the budget what has been supported from last year to this year that we've been able to accomplish. So, Jessica?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jessica Boston Davis. I have the pleasure of being the superintendent fellow this year and learning really under Superintendent Skipper, and it's been quite an enjoyable experience and a learning experience for me. So I'm excited to share some of the highlights for this year, starting with the Somerville High School building project, which is now in its phase 2. So that's really exciting. One thing that I've been working closely with is also the By All Means work. And this is in conjunction with the Harvard Redesign Lab. We're also leading in that work as well. Finally, not finally, but another thing that I'm working on, I've been working closely on, is the equity work in the school, with both the school committee and with district administrators, and hoping to go deeper in that in the next couple of years. In addition, we've currently actually have the BAR through the donations from the BAR Foundation and from the Center for Collaborative Education. We've been able to engage in a high school redesign for both Somerville High School and next to Full Circle. And finally, we engaged in the Somerville Learning 2030 community visioning process, and this was an opportunity to hear from the community of Somerville and engage in what learning looks like both inside the classroom and outside for our schools. Oh, and also we recycling and composting pilot program in our schools. So these are just some of the highlights of this year that I'm excited to share.
Hello, my name is Lisa Cook. I'm the Director of Continuing Ed at Scale, and I have the privilege of sharing our development work. I can't see that screen. Turned 50, I can't see things, so I have big print right here. So I am excited that today the district has secured and expects to receive $3.5 million through grant initiatives that will fund new initiatives, expand capacity of our programs, increase student and family engagement. Now, as Jessica mentioned, I heard the tail end, the BAR Foundation has been an instrumental partner in the redesign and planning process of the wider learning ecosystem initiative, awarding $300,000 to Somerville High School and $150,000 to Next Wave Full Circle through the Engage New England Fund. Now, in the area of student engagement, Nellie Mae Foundation has provided Somerville with $100,000 in a grant for the Summer Learning 2030 youth visioning process. Now, this youth visioning and educational leadership development funding focused on professional development, retention, and recruitment practices. And we are proud to share that Nellie Mae Foundation hopes to continue, is committed to continue our work in FY20 and has made a commitment of $260,000 in the area of early education. Commonwealth Preschool Partnerships Initiatives, led by the Department of Early Education and Care, has awarded Somerville Public Schools with nearly $1.5 million over the next 3 years to expand access, improve quality, and improve the quality of Somerville's early education systems and partnerships. In the area of special education, the Department of Secondary Education has also generously awarded the district with a mental and behavioral health services grant, which will include comprehension intervention plan for students and family of students in crisis. Now, as a department, we continue to leverage partnerships to build capacity, to launch new programs, and meet the needs of all of our students. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mariana McDonald. I'm the HR Director for Somerville Public Schools. And my slide contains a very small fraction of all the awards and recognitions our students and staff received this year. And as a Somerville resident, Somerville High School graduate, it makes me so proud to see all the awards that we're getting. And because of time and limitations, I can only give you just a few. So I'll just concentrate on just a couple of them on this slide. The Highlander Theatre Club members received several awards at the Massachusetts Thespian Festival. We are so grateful to have such a great theater company at the high school. On another level, we have a high school hockey team who earned the MIAA Educational Athletic Achievement Award. We also have 24 Somerville Public School students in grades 4 to 6 that were elected to, I'm sorry, it's small print for me too. They were elected to the Massachusetts All-Star Treble Chorus. We also have Somerville High School social studies teacher, Cynthia Massalon, who received the Nellie Mae Lawrence W02 Educator Leadership Award. And another thing that is close to my heart too is that this year sanctuary committees were recognized in December by the Somerville Board of Aldermen and Mayor Curtatone in recognition of all their hard work in supporting Somerville's immigrant population. There are so many awards, but we have so little time, and I just want to thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Almi Bates, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. And I will be going over some increased academic achievements. First, Somerville has continued to maintain excellent growth, overall growth in general on MCAS. A new year for MCAS 2.0, and we came out very strong. We also, our SGP, and many grades are above the state average, so that's something that we can boast about. We're very proud of the work that our teachers are doing and principals do every single day. In math, we've had a higher percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations. And in ELA, we have a higher percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations in 5th grade and in 10th grade as well. And then our ground school is continued to be designated as a school designation. And our name it, they're attending, and we expect the same this year for our graduates as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Richie Malillo. I'm the Director of Student Services. And I have a bunch of timekeepers over here with me, so that I won't go too long. So I have 4 slides that I'd like to talk about. Graduation rate, dropout rate, suspension rate, and the attendance rate. And the good news is the data is extremely positive, and it really does reflect the hard work and collaboration between departments in our district at every level, from administration, teachers, paraprofessionals. And it's really powerful. If you look at our graduation rates, they've improved over the past 8 years. Our 4-year graduation rate at Somerville High School is 86.7%, and our 5-year graduation rate is 91.2%. Pretty impressive numbers. But this really is a collaboration between both our academic and our social emotional learning houses in our district. And we try to align it with the MTSS frameworks which the state provides us. I think one of the most important things with this work is it directly relates to the school committee goal number 2, which reflects on supporting the whole child from pre-K to 12, developing that social emotional framework, and improving academic success. If you look at our dropout rates, this is really near and dear to my heart. In 2010, we had a 5.6% dropout rate, which probably reflects around 120 kids dropping out of Somerville Public Schools. The work that Mary Skipper has put into this has been amazing. She has really made this a district effort. Dropout work begins really pre-K here. It does not begin at the high school level. It goes pre-K to 12 and it touches all facets of our district. This is one thing I can tell you all out there. Mary Skipper, our superintendent, knows every single name of a student that's struggling in our high school, in both high schools. She meets with principals of both schools and sits down and we go through each and every kid. We look at one student at a time and we meet the student where they are. Where I want to acknowledge the school committee's work on this, we're really looking at gaps and what kids need, what students need. And some of the programming that's been developed over the last couple of years is so impressive. Our student support teams look at each and every student at every level in our district, from K to 8 to the high schools. Some of the programs that we talk about, Extended Learning Program, which is an online program for kids who are struggling. The Redirect Program, which is based at the high school for students who are, I don't want to use the word potential dropouts, but kids who are struggling academically and socially. We've built in academics and social supports in that, both tutoring and assistance, therapeutic supports from Riverside Mental Health. We have the PATH program that Chris will talk about, I'm sure. And then we have the Bridge program that's pretty new this year, which works with kids who maybe have been hospitalized for mental health issues and come back out. It's a respite program. Also for students with 504 to give them additional supports. And then the obvious here, Sarah Dowell has built a program with Gold and partnered with Lisa Cook at Scale. And that program has so much promise for our district. And the results show a 1.2% dropout rate for Somerville High School. That is unbelievable. That is the all-time lowest we've ever had in the history of Somerville High. The next is our out-of-school suspension rates, which have also declined over the past 7 years. Our in-school suspension rate right now is 2.1%, and our out-of-school suspension rate is 2%. That is really impressive. We are trying, when there's a discipline act that comes up, what we're trying to do is look at what happened with the student, use some PBIS models, and use some mediation techniques. We have strict adherence to Chapter 222 from DESE, which states we have to look at alternatives to suspension, and we do with every single suspension. We know we have work to do. We know we have work to do around suspension of students of color, the disproportionality of students with disabilities, and that's something that we're committed to as a district. The training we're doing with our professional development, this summer, for example, we have the PBIS initiative, which is Positive Behavior Intervention Strategies, and each school send representatives so that we can learn and gain more skills to build our toolbox so we're not suspending kids as if it's the answer. It's not the answer. Suspension is not the answer in our district. And the second thing we're looking at is from examining our students and knowing some of the things that they've gone through is trauma-informed care trainings. We've partnered with Leslie, and I want to give a shout out to our own Health and Human Service Department, who supported us at every facet from K to 12 in providing supports around trauma-informed care, from professional development to clinical assessments, and it's just a real good, strong partner. So shout out to Doug Cresson on that. The last thing, I started as an attendance officer in this district. I have harassed everybody in this table, everybody on this cabinet about attendance. It's my passion. Our attendance rate, if you look at it, doesn't have great growth, because prior to 2010, it was in the 80s. And since we've come on and put this thing together, this is our first step, we're at 94.4 as a district, which is one of the highest in the state for an urban district. And our elementary schools, we have schools as high as 96.8%. We have days where there's perfect attendance in schools that have 400 and 500 kids, and that is impressive. Our goal, I should say this, our goal is to work with families, engage them in our schools. So I want you to think about this. Excessive absenteeism is a symptom of family dysfunction. We approach it that way. When a student's struggling coming to school and a parent has difficulties getting them there, we go to the house and engage. We don't go as a punitive measure. We try to engage them in our school, bring them in, they're welcome, get them to trust us so we can identify what the barrier is and why they can't attend on a regular basis. Our SST teams, which meet weekly, they prescribe an intervention. We follow through with that intervention, whether it's a referral to a mental health organization or something simple. Maybe just sitting down with the principal and getting to know them and writing a simple behavior plan or a safety plan. Our big thing is to engage our families, and that has to be heard. And I think that is why we have such a high attendance rate. Last thing I want to say to the school committee, if I can have your eyes for a second, I can't thank you enough for supporting the programs that we've brought to you. The gap programming that I referred to, like PATH and Promise and Goal, it's because we sit around and look at the data and really have conversation as a group to see what we need to meet our kids where they are. And without you supporting these programs, I can tell you the data that I just displayed to you would not be anywhere near where it is today. So thank you very much for listening.
So my name is Kenya Avant Ransom. I'm the Somerville Public Schools Data Coordinator. I'd like to begin by thanking Rich Milillo for such a professional and just great data presentation. I would also like to point out that he was a bit over time. To practice getting that, tight. So I'm going to, or what I'm presenting to you is this table here, showing the plans of our high school graduates who are coming from Somerville Public Schools. You can see the comparison between the percentage of students who are going on to different career paths or schooling experiences compared to those same numbers at the state level. So what stands out here to me, I'm not going to read every line of this table, but I will just point out a few data points, one of which is the 4-year private college attendance, where we're looking at 17.9% of Somerville Public School graduates attending a 4-year private college, compared to 29% of state students in the state attending similar universities. And then the second number I point out here is the 30% of students who are attending a 4-year public college. So the attendance the college attendance rate is pretty high in Somerville. I would also, as you can see, just point to that 24.7% number for the percentage of Somerville Public School students who are moving on to the workforce or pursuing careers right after high school. In total, 97% of our students are moving on to either college experience or moving on to careers and the workforce. This next table that I'm going to speak to lists the student demographics in Somerville. We are a very diverse city, and I don't just mean diverse in terms of the languages spoken, which are a lot, or diversity in terms of the percentage of students who come here from different countries. And but I think in general this diversity goes beyond that, and we have a diversity of experiences, a diversity of like life possibilities, we have a true sort of repository, I would say, of potential here. And that it's great to see. And I think that we, Somerville Public Schools, take advantage of that every day through the work that our teaching staff do, that our support staff do, that our administration do, and that's great. What I will point out here are the district percentages, and I will also not read that chart. So I am not 50, however, I don't have on my glasses. But it expands. So 60% of our students are high needs. 48, approximately 50% of students speak a language or have a language that is not English as their first language. 21% of our students, this is an average across all schools, are receiving special education services. And then finally, approximately 20% are learning English, so they're English language learners. Again, this just underscores the diversity across the district and why it's such a pleasure to work here. Thank you.
So we're back to financial data. This is actually our per pupil spending by function. This is based upon FY18 data that was submitted by the district to the state as part of our end-of-year financial report. What I'd like to highlight for you is that you'll notice that most of the spending is in teaching or other instructional services. The district as a whole, and this is based on all funds, as the superintendent pointed out earlier in the presentation. So it's based on local grants and city expenditures on education. Our FY18, based on FY18 data, we were spending more than $20,000 per pupil in the district. The state average is $16,000. One other thing that I want to highlight for you, we're above the state average on operations and management in maintenance of operations and maintenance, and that's based upon the maintenance costs of our buildings. This next slide is our funding and estimated revenue for FY20 in comparison to FY19. So this is going to include our local appropriation budget, the ask, which includes a 4.92% increase. The private, state, and federal grants, we are expecting federal grants to be level, but as Lisa Cook in her presentation pointed out, we're getting additional state and private grants, including the early ed grant, part of Lisa Cook's operation, and special ed circuit breaker, we're expecting an increase. We are expecting a slight decrease in revolving account revenue, and that's based upon the Kennedy pool, which is going to be transferring over to the Parks and Recreation Department in FY20.
So our budget does support teaching and learning through innovation. And so currently, in this past year, I'm going to go through what our budget currently supported. Student insights, continued expansion of one-to-one. We explored the inclusion of coding as an elective this year. And we expanded makerspace and STEM and STEAM opportunities. And so this year, as we co-craft and create a new budget, we'd like to continue in that vein. And so some of the things that we are looking to support with this coming year's budget is an expansion of the calculus project. And we'd like to explore a pilot for school-based digital learning specialists. Continue to expand beautiful stuff projects and arts and crafts. And then expand digital literacy and computer science professional development.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Curley. I'm the Chief of Staff in the Superintendent's Office. One of the things we know is that opportunity gaps can open up if we don't address them in after school and over the summer. And so one of the big commitments that Superintendent Skipper and Mayor Curtatoni have made is to ensure that we're investing in high quality programming to help serve more students. Since the superintendent's come on, we've more than doubled the number of after-school seats that are available. That's through growth in programs like community schools, but also new partners that have come into the district, such as Citizen Schools, Breakthrough, and others. Citizen Schools just this year opened their second campus at Winter Hill, and next year will expand again to the Argenziano. And we're coupling those with growth of other enrichment opportunities, such as intramural sports, and particularly looking at where we may have gaps in programming and growing those areas, such as in the middle grades. So this was something that we've been building on and hope to continue building momentum on in this budget.
I'm Lisa Q. I'm the Director of Early Education for Somerville Public Schools. And the early education budget is really grounded in the school committee goal of kindergarten readiness, which means making sure every child is ready for kindergarten when they come and making sure that the schools are ready for them when they come. So there's that dual role there. A couple things to highlight from the current budget are the importance of our 2 dedicated instructional coaches for early education. They support this year 24 plus classrooms in schools and in Somerville Public Schools and in our center-based programs across the city, and delivered professional development to over 100 teachers, which really translates into hundreds and hundreds of children impacted by their work pre-K through 2nd grade in many cases. I also wanted to highlight the screening efforts. This is our 2nd year of screening incoming preschool children, which hadn't been done before. Next year we'll be extending that through the Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Initiative Grant to be screening children who are Somerville residents but are in our local child care centers. And we've never done that before, so that's very, very exciting. And then to build on what we are looking forward to next year, the Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Initiative Grant means important infrastructure building for early education, not only within Somerville Public Schools, but the city as a whole, and is the seed money, especially in the form of important capacity. For example, our new Somerville Partnership for Young Children coordinator, Alyssa Corrigan, who just came on this year, and soon will be asking, in the future will be asking for her position as part of our team in the local budget, but she'll be funded for the next year through the grant. And finally, I wanted to mention, directly related to readiness of schools and readiness of children, is the importance of the curricular focus in early education, innovative research-based curriculum developed in partnership with people like Noni Lusso from Harvard Graduate School of Education to provide really strong balanced literacy curriculum in preschool across the city, and a unique combination of Montessori-inspired practices, project-based learning, and anti-bias education to help support teachers in culturally responsive teaching. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christine Travisoni. I'm the Director of Special Education. Welcome. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the many exciting programs and services that we're offering in special education, especially reflecting on some of the programming and services we provide under this current budget. We really focused this year on enhancing our autism programming and services and all of our social, emotional, and therapeutic services. In regards to specialized instruction and collaboration this year, we've developed some strong partnerships, one with a specialist around inclusion, and she has been working with both ECIP and beginning to work with West Somerville School on improving inclusive practices in order to meet the needs of all students. We've also had the pleasure of working collaboratively with Melissa Orkin out of Tufts University, who's a reading specialist, and she's been working in collaboration with special education and general education on really identifying students who are struggling with reading and also identifying what targeted instructional practices need to be put in place in multiple layers, both in the general education study so we can take care of it and support before a student is identified as having a disability, and then really how do we target that instruction once they have been identified. I'm excited to talk about some of our proposed budgets for the upcoming school year. Again, in regards to enhanced programming, we're looking at building inclusive programming for our students with Down syndrome at West Somerville Neighborhood School. Many of you may know we have a new population, an increased population of students with Down syndrome. And so we need to begin planning and providing services for that. Also, the continued unification and expansion of the ASD programming, which will be preschool through 8th grade at Winter Hill. We'll be increasing the preschool classroom to 3 ASD classrooms next year. We also are collaborating with the SFLC and creating a multilingual service center in order to meet the interpreting and translating needs for parents and students throughout the district, not just in special education, but throughout the district. And also the creation of an academic tester and psychologist for ECIP, so that we have someone working with our children as they're being identified and coming into the district to really support them and support their programming. In regards to specialized instruction and collaboration, we're creating a new position, which is a transition specialist position, to work with Somerville High School and Full Circle on increasing improved post-secondary outcomes for all of our students. Also, the expansion, we're very excited to propose the expansion of ECIP programming to 5 days a week, so that they'll be aligned with our continued work at supporting all students. We're excited that we begin to develop a partnership with Cambridge College, a partnership called Early College, so that our students at Somerville High and Full Circle will have access to early college education and access to begin some of that planning and experiences. We're going to be continuing our partnerships with Melissa Orkin with regards to reading and improving reading instruction, as well as the specialists around inclusion and the work that we're doing. And we're extremely excited. We've been allotted a grant from the Department of Education in collaboration with Melissa Orkin in regards to literacy and leadership that we will be sponsoring this school year in Somerville. Because of our work with her, we have been selected as a district to continue that. So that'll be great for our students and also for our teachers and our staff to improve. And thank you so much. And I'm excited to introduce my partner in crime, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Dadiga, and as District Administrator of Programs in the district, I have 2 roles, and so I'll address 2 slides. And the first one is around English learner education. And we want to highlight and thank the committee and the district for supporting. This year was the first year we've had a school-based English learner education department chair at Somerville High School. That's been very successful and has having her be fully dedicated to the high school. We've been able to further develop our partnerships with Scale through the GOAL program and to build on our supports for newcomer students. For next year, we're focusing first off in our early grades. We want to expand and strengthen our self-contained sheltered immersion programs for newcomer students at English levels 1 and 2. We want to minimize the transitions that our youngest children experience from grade K to kindergarten in the sheltered program. We want to continue to build our trauma-informed practices, especially at the middle school and the high school. We are also piloting with Cambridge College a dual enrollment program focused just on our English learners in collaboration within group to provide them specific supports that we think they might need. And we want to continue to develop our English learner education parent advisory council, a very strong group that will continue to advise and support our work as we move forward. The other area that I work with is in family and community partnerships. And this current year, we have completed a strategic planning process. And so next year, we will be launching an integrated Somerville Family Learning Center for comprehensive family and community engagement support and empowerment from birth to adulthood. As we completed the strategic planning process, we started a reorganization process, and we actually found some efficiencies. and some efficiencies that are going to gain us some more full-time staff, which is a goal as we move forward. So in our plans for next year, we hope to have now 2 full-time Somerville Family Learning Collaborative liaisons, a full-time position at Somerville High School and a full-time position at East Somerville Community School. We're looking forward to further budget years to enhance our full-time liaison staff. We've combined or plan to combine our homeless and basic needs liaison to create another full-time position that will be a benefited position. We will hope to fund a multilingual coordinator, another full-time position, and in collaboration with special education, we want to bring on 2 part-time interpreters and translators that will not only just be on call for events like this, but will be on staff with us with specialized qualifications. And we want to build on our district equity efforts as well as within the SFLC organization to create professional pathways, to build opportunities for leadership among our current staff at the SFLC.
Hi, I'm Liz Doncaster. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Services for Somerville Public Schools. I've had the pleasure to work with and learn from the legendary Richard Malillo, who is retiring this year, but he is the director, so he gets 4 slides and I get 1. I'll do the best I can with what I have. I'm going to pull out a few things on the slide that I work directly with, which we have trained our SST, our student support teams, on our fairly new insights, student insights programs, which is a really integral part of how we get information about a student and how that information follows them throughout their school experience with us. The SST teams are really the heart and soul of how we find out what at-risk students that are rising to the top of the school. And we have 3 criteria that we use. Children that are challenged by attendance, by discipline, or have some sort of crisis happening. This is the stakeholders in the building, the administrators, the counselor, the nurse, that we all come together at a table. I attend these meetings, the supervisors of attendance attend these meetings, and we talk about these students. We talk about the challenges they're facing, the next supports they need, who is going to be responsible for making sure those supports are implemented, and then a follow-up date. So there's a lot of accountability there. And out of those student support meetings, we do use the insights, and we're hoping to continue to grow those modules in the next budget of those modules in the insights program that really are district specific to our population. Ori Hurl and the staff have done a great job in creating those modules. Another thing that comes out of the student support teams is our need to find kids that may need counseling, but maybe they don't fit the adjustment counselor in the school. They're not eligible for a 504, and they're not at an IEP, but they do need some counseling to get them through something. So Rich had brought in the contracting outside vendors, Home for Little Wanderers, and I can't remember. Thank you. And it's great because the kids have that support for however long they need it, and it's on a rolling scale, and they can have therapy during the school day, which kind of relieves the stress of the parents trying to get them to figure out who the therapist is and where they're going to take them with their schedules. So this happens during the school day. And those types of things are born out of the SST meetings. The other thing I want to touch base on is the fact that we need to continue to work with our social emotional learning curriculum, second step. And what I really like about second step, we implemented that you have sort of a second step point person in the building who is a colleague. So that person brings those lessons. It just reminds you that the second step is our social emotional learning program. You should, what lessons you should be on. You can go to this person in the building for questions, especially the new teachers who need help with new curriculum. And it kind of keeps them following that social emotional curriculum with fidelity. So we need to keep those coaches in the building, and that second step is being implemented now all the way up until 8th grade. The other thing I think is really important for us to continue, and it's close to my heart, is the trauma-informed classroom that we're partnering with Leslie. We need our veteran teachers to continue to learn. We need our new teachers to continue to understand that the intricacies of our population and our students that are at risk. And you need to reach and teach to the student, because we know now that the trauma brain is a different brain. It learns a little different. And we have to let our new teachers and our veteran teachers know that they need to increase their toolbox on how to reach and teach to these students. Help them regulate when they get dysregulated, and also teach them, like it is one of the goals of the school committee is to teach to the whole child. So we're here to teach students how to be human, how to get along with each other, how to collaborate, how to understand their feelings and regulate their feelings, how to deal with disappointment, how to get through hard times. We need to do that along with all the academics that we need to teach them. And that's kind of the heart and soul of what we do with student services and the department that we just created. So I thank you for your time.
A concerted human capital strategy, which includes recruitment, development, and retention of a diverse and talented staff, which also happens to be school committee goal number 6. I also realized when I looked at this slide that there's not a lot of words up there, but there are a lot of words in here, so I will do my best to and so just wanted to take a look at a few of the initiatives that we have under each of these areas, starting with recruitment and hiring. So we are very fortunate to have just received a teacher diversification grant from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and which aims to support districts to increase the number of effective and diverse teachers in schools. And this is a very new grant for us, so we're just starting conversations with educators, administrators, students, and other stakeholders about how we'll roll this out. But also through that grant, we hope to engage in some strategic college and university partnerships for recruitment. So really looking at colleges and universities that may have larger populations of prospective educators of color. Do you see those happy people on this slide? See the happy people? Those are teachers. And so the next bucket I'm looking at here is development. And knowing that we have so much invested in our teachers, we want to make sure that we're continuing their growth and development while they're with us. So the first step is ensuring that we recruit and hire a high-quality, effective, diverse educators and staff. But then we want to ensure that we keep them here as well. So that's the retention piece. So it's my opinion, who wouldn't want to be in Somerville and stay in Somerville, but we need to ensure that we're building and creating the systems and the environment where educators feel like and are treated as professionals. And I feel that very strongly. So we've been working on kind of reinvigorating our induction and mentoring program, really with a focus on teaching and learning. And so those two educators that you see up there were professional development leaders this past year. And so we've been working on a professional development program where teachers lead other teachers. In fact, this is good. Today I was in a professional development where there were administrators, school and district, teachers and paraprofessionals learning from a teacher. Right? That's powerful. That's really powerful. And so that is something we've been doing over the last 2 years. It's been called the PD module program. But next year, what's new and exciting, and I think a great opportunity, is that we'll have, all educators in the district will have 24 hours of required professional development. But what's new through the teacher's contract for next year is that 10 of those hours will be educator choice. And so I feel like we really have an opportunity to create a robust for educators in the district. Great. And so lastly, we just want to take a quick look at the advancement bucket. So we have teachers, we get them in the door, we continue developing their skills, and then people say, I'm ready for the next thing. And this was already mentioned that we had the wonderful opportunity to I wanted to find it in my notes. So thank you. So the Nellie Mae Foundation, to build this educator leadership model. I could stand here and talk about this for the next hour. So we've had a wonderful opportunity this year to bring together educators from across the district. In fact, some of them are in the audience today, some teachers and some administrators, to work on creating an educator leadership model for the district that doesn't necessarily end in administration. It might, and we want to build capacity in that way, but we don't necessarily want all our best educators leaving the classroom and going into administration. So what are the other pathways? That's what we've been looking for through advancement. Yeah, so that's just a glimpse into some of the many aspects, and we thank you for your continued support.
So the next 3 slides focus on the FY20 proposed budget. This first slide here is kind of at a higher level. We're requesting an increase of 4.92%. The budget itself is broken down into 2 main buckets. The personnel side, the salaries, which is mostly in teaching and instruction. That represents about 80% of our budget. And the non-salary items, which include operations, contracts, transportation, and out-of-district tuitions. Under this non-salary portion of the budget, I want to highlight some items for you. So as part of our budget ask, we're going to be funding a 4% increase in out-of-district tuition, addressing the rising costs to transport our homeless students, funding out-of-school time expansion. It includes funding for strategic planning for the guidance department at the high school, the important work of the equity-based work, the important work at the district and school-based level, the continued expansion of the comprehensive middle school athletic program, and the expansion of the recycling and composting program to all elementary and middle schools. On the salary side, we're looking at about a $2.8 million increase, which includes all contractual step and lane increases, and the addition of 6 full-time positions. So there are 3 buckets here. One is administration. We're looking to add 1 position, an equity administrator who is focused on cultural proficiency. That will continue the equity work that started this year at the administration level and be focused mainly on schools going forward into next year. School-based positions, some of these have been mentioned by cabinet members that have come up, but a special ed integration specialist focused on theater arts, a dean of students at the Urgenziano, an educator counselor here at East, a college and career advisor at the high school, and a pre-K SPED teacher for the ASD program at Winter Health. So that's an addition, as I mentioned, 6 full-time positions. We also have some additional staff changes, and these are school-based. An expansion of the specialist program across arts, music, physical ed, and library. Expansion of the world language teacher to continue the expansion of language to 5 times per week. And the expansion, as Chris mentioned, of the ECIP program at CAP to 5 days a week for parity with the SMILE program.
Good evening, everybody. We halfway through it. My name is Regina Bertoldo, and as Sarah mentioned, the SFLC strategic planning that we went through, the Parent Information Center is now called the Enrollment Center. So I'll introduce myself as Regina Bertoldo, the Enrollment Center Director. And I am also the district liaison for homeless students and multilingual services. So this is our elementary class projections. And if you look across, I think we can go on the totals, what we have in projections now, and what we're going to be adding. It's 1 classroom. Let me start by saying we have some schools that we had bubbles when we had to create an extra classroom, which is enrollment driven. As the years move on, the bubble follows, and we almost done with the bubbles. What is matter? So grade 8 has 1 bubble that we popping in, and the other The two addition sections, one, as Christine mentioned, is the ECIP to support students with autism, and then an extra 5th grader at the Winter Hill to support newcomer students.
It's always very interesting to watch the team present, because first of all, I think there's just a deep passion that you get from them of what they do and how they do it and how much they care. But I think the other thing that has evolved is the interchangeability and comfort with each other, of laughing with each other and enjoying to work with each other, and that all makes for a much more effective team in the end. So in terms of the partnerships, we could go on and on and on. These are a lot of our city partners, but there's a few we just want to call out quickly. The police department and the fire department, we rely on a weekly basis. I don't know how else to say it. They really have our back, and they support us in so many ways. Also the health and human services, particularly with our mental health and our nurses, and certainly our DPW with our buildings. You know, we really rely strongly on it. In terms of the community partners, this list grows and grows every year. It used to be 1 column, it is now 3 in tiny, and that's a very healthy thing. But just a few ones to note: Leslie, which we have deep partnerships across PD on many levels, and most recently trauma training for all of our schools that we're very, very proud of and benefit from. Biogen Foundation, who's given us the equivalent of $5 million of in-kind partnerships over a 5-year period. And the Boston Debate League, which is a small partner for us, but a very powerful one. Took a group of 20 some odd East Somerville students to Washington, D.C. to compete, and we rely so heavily on them. So to the school committee, it's my honor to present this budget, which our team here, as you've heard tonight, believes is a budget that supports your 6 goals, our 6 goals, is fiscally responsible, continues to build the foundation that's grounded in our values of equity and access and opportunity of everything we do, and certainly is progressive and forward-thinking in how we meet the needs of all of our students academically, social, emotionally, and in their physical capacities. So it's my pleasure to present this budget to you. It represents a lot of hard work, and I'm really looking forward to comments from the community as well as other suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Skipper, and to the whole team. You mentioned the laughter. I'm glad that caught your attention as well. That I wanted to kind of acknowledge that it's not normal to be laughing in a budget meeting. And I know, we'll hear from some community members often who will highlight some needs in the district where we need to continue to invest. But I will just say, thank you to the whole district for what you do. I look at the superintendent, but I also look at all of you for creating a culture of trust and collaboration. And that's, to me, what the laughter represents. And I really appreciate that. And I see the district, over the last 5 years, that has grown. And that's because you're all invested in it. And that definitely has an impact on what we're trying to do here. So thank you for that. I also see in this budget kind of a culture of accountability and transparency. Superintendent Skipper, since you've been here, you've been very clear that there are places where we want to grow and do better, and as individuals and collectively, and you've highlighted them because you want to improve them. And so I really appreciate the culture you've built here. So we're going to transition into the public hearing part of this. Yes. We're going to transition to the public hearing part of this. There's a couple kind of rules I'll go through. One of the things I did skip in the beginning of this was we typically introduce ourselves. So we'll do that. It's in my notes and I skipped it. So we'll start at the end here.
Ajay Green, I represent Ward 4.
Carrie Norman, I represent Ward 7 and I'm this year's chair.
Dan Futrell, Ward 2, and I'm the chair of the Finance Committee.
Laura Bertone, I represent Ward 5. Paula O'Sullivan, Ward 6, and the chair of the Ed Programs Committee.
Erica Palmer, Ward 3, and I'm the chair of the Rules Committee.
And Emily Ackman is unfortunately homesick tonight, and is why she's not with us tonight.
In terms of the process for this next piece, we have a document out here. It was originally labeled attendance. We artfully relabeled it public comment. So if I ask for your name and you were registering your attendance, just let me know. You don't need to talk. But I'll read down this list here. A couple kind of just norms. Yeah, and there's one more document. If you want to speak and you haven't said anything, you haven't put your name on it, there's a document over here. If you put your name on it, be happy to hear. 3 minutes. 3 minutes for statements. I'll do something crazy when you get to 3 minutes, so you know that you're over time. Improper conduct and remarks will not be allowed. Speakers may offer objective criticisms of the school operations and programs, but please nothing personal. Written comments longer than 3 minutes may be presented before or after the hearing for review. So disregard that. That would have made you had you said something ahead of time. And then lastly, it feels kind of awkward, so it's important for us to just call it out. The purpose of this hearing is not for us to discuss or respond or have kind of a back and forth. Instead, it's to provide a public forum for us and the audience through the magic of television for us to hear your thoughts. So we won't be responding to comments. If there's a short point of clarification, the superintendent may have something very brief, but this is not intended to be a back and forth. So with that said, what's that? Oh yeah, last thing. It's not in my notes. No applause, because we don't like applause anymore. No one had. If we allow for applause, sometimes the comments that have more people in the room for it feel like they're weighted more and have more support, which is not really the intent. So please hold your applause. We care about everybody's voice equally. So first, we've got Pat Rutkin. And so please go ahead and come up to the microphone up here. And every time I say a name, I'll say the next name so you get your heart rate up a little bit. And next is Michelle Lippis.
Hello. All right, I don't have any cool budget jokes, but I wish I had. My name is Pat Rutkin. I'm the Executive Director of Groundwork Somerville. We are one of the community partners that was listed on the slideshow. As a note too, I'm also a parent of soon-to-be 2 children in Somerville Public Schools, so it's really neat to just be able to see this process. I've never been able to make it before, but so thank you for all of your work on this, and again for being funny. That was kind of cool. So Groundwork has worked closely with the schools for several years, and this is a partnership we very much value. We maintain and program all 9 of the school gardens. And through our programming, we reach pretty much all district students. Each year we have over 5,000 student hours in the gardens. The different ways that this ties in with the curriculums is obviously gardening, with science, social emotional learning, and some of our schools now have the World Crops Gardens, which are they're crops that are culturally relevant to some of our immigrant communities. And unfortunately, Sabia Miyahi, who is our Green Team member and also a student at Somerville High School, she was here to speak. Some of her, she wanted to talk about her experience both as a student at the Healy and at the high school, and also in our Green Team, so learning in and maintaining the gardens. And her mother is actually one of our World Crops farmers who grows some Bangladeshi crops, which can be really exciting for a lot of the students to see, particularly, food that they eat at home. We've had kids who are on the Green Team and have been eating some Peruvian crops like chilo their whole lives and have never seen it grown. They're just like, oh, I usually just see this in the stew, so it's a really interesting thing. I'm mostly just here to thank you for your partnership and your funding and your commitment to our programming. And for your consideration of increasing our funding, because we really just want to be able to continue this programming and get all of our students out into the gardens. And again, so Sabia just wanted to talk a little bit about how she had learned in the garden, and just hoping that all students coming up will be able to have these experiences. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say. So thanks again for your support, and we appreciate it.
Next up is Michelle Lippens, followed by Sadia.
Hi. I'm Michelle Lippens, Ward 3. I don't know if I have to say anything else. This is my first time at a school budget committee. I didn't know it could be so fun. There was laughter involved. So this is clearly a passionate group of people, so thank you for that. Is this also a space I can ask questions?
Not to be answered.
Not to be answered, but just to put out there. So I noticed that there were a lot of community partnerships, so I was wondering, and I'll phrase it as a question, but you don't have to answer it, about the Boston Debate League. And just to clarify the use of the $20,000, I know that Boston BPS does some partnerships with Boston Debate League, which I think are great. And I'm wondering if that's a partnership with teachers or just students. And I'm also curious as what's happening to the special education assistant director position, and if that was included in the budget. Thank you.
Yes. Sure. You know what? Let's hold it. Let's hold to the end. Let's hold to the end if we could. Sabiha. Okay. Got it. Mary Marshall, followed by Jocelyn.
Good evening. I'm Mary Marshall. I'm the president of the PTSA at Somerville High School. Excuse me, I have a cold. Thank you, Superintendent Skipper and school committee for allowing me to speak this evening. I am here again to speak about the snack program that we reintroduced a few years ago. And it's still on the school spring as an open position. Unfortunately, it's still at $11 an hour and minimum wage is at $12. I thought of a great solution. I thought that the staff in the cafeteria would be great to just stay on and just keep the program going from 2 to 3 o'clock. Our volunteers do not want to stop. They would like to continue and help the person that's in charge of it, but they just don't want to run the program. If we could get somebody to do the program, we could also go outside during the warmer weather, if we ever get any, and go to the modules. So if you could please consider giving a little bit more money to this program, it would really be great to the kids. They look for it. I mean, we are, you know, the position we're in right now is that we're in the main office and we're not getting to the kids that are going to the atrium anymore. So if we can get outside, we can get more volunteers, but we do need someone to run the program. Right now, you know, we take each other's shifts and, you know, but we really could use the person to do the data for some of the school system. Thank you.
Jocelyn. And this is the last name on the list, so if you are in the audience.
So I'm going to be the one to bring it down, Olive. Sorry. It's very exciting to hear all of the progress and movement on equity and cultural proficiency and all of this. I'm really excited that the district has taken this on in such a meaningful way and in such a deep way. Last year, I came to this meeting and I asked for a position of a district diversity officer. And this year, there is one on the budget. So this kind of positive reinforcement for me is probably for all of you. I'm hoping that my request today will be as successful. As I said, thank you, yes. As I said, I really appreciate all of the hard work that's being done. And I know what a long road this is, and what a marathon, a never-ending marathon this will be for us. But I want to talk about the kids today who are experiencing bias every day in school. As we move forward with our equity plans, we can't continue to overlook the kids that are in the school right now every day getting targeted for their race or their religion, their ethnicity, their abilities, their sexuality. These children are being traumatized every day. They have a constant fear of assault, physical or verbal. School isn't safe for them. They don't have equal access. They are not going to be able to reach their potential in this environment. Until we can create a school environment that's safe for all kids, where all kids feel valued, respected, and supported, we cannot have equity. The Southern Poverty Law Center published a report yesterday describing a national uptick in hate incidents in schools nationwide. And they wrote, most of the hate and bias incidents witnessed by educators were not addressed by school leaders. No one was disciplined in 57% of them. 9 times out of 10, administrators failed to denounce the bias or reaffirm school values. The picture that emerges is the exact opposite of what schools should be, places where students feel welcome, safe, and supported by the adults who are responsible for their well-being. They went on to say, to ensure that students are safe from harm, educators must take vigorous, proactive measures to counter prejudice and promote equity and inclusiveness. They must act swiftly and decisively to address all incidents of hate and bias when they happen, with a model that emphasizes communication, empathy, reconciliation, and support to those who are harmed. So I ask that in addition to the long-term plan, that we address the urgent needs of those children for whom school is not a safe place today. We need those short-term efforts at the same time. I would ask you to budget as much as possible for training teachers on the front lines so that they have the tools they need to address bias and hateful behavior when it happens, and to create anti-bias inclusive classroom culture. I ask you to budget for assemblies before somebody finds a swastika written on the door. I'm almost done. So that all kids can learn about the power of words and symbols. I ask you to budget for proactive and intentional efforts to improve school culture now. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of kids in Somerville who can't wait another day. We adults know the work that's being done, but the kids in school who are targeted have no idea. As far as they know, no one cares. So let's show them now how much we really care. Thank you.
Thank you. Last name on the list is Greg Nadeau.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you, members of the school committee, for your many long hours of service. My name is Greg Nadeau, and I'm a father of 2 high school students, a freshman and a senior, and so I've been a member of this school committee now for 13 years, and it's been a joy to have kids grow up in such a wonderful community. And it's really only in this last year that I've become increasingly aware of the many needs that our kids in this community have. Certainly, watching my older son and his friends go through the college admissions process, and talking to Superintendent Skipper about the 6-year completion rate exposes that while we're doing a fantastic job of graduating kids from high school and launching them into college, it just isn't enough. Only 40% of our kids are completing college within 6 years, and so getting to high school graduation and proficiency is the floor, but not the ceiling. And we have to be doing more. I want to encourage you to look at the budget, particularly around the area of the family liaison coordinators. That is where a lot of the frontline work is being done. Increasing to full-time in 2 of the positions is good, but I would encourage you to increase that faster. I should have mentioned that the increase in the college counselor is very welcome, but still doesn't put us anywhere near on par to the resources that the charter school commits to that same effort. Finally, out of school time, summertime are important opportunities to extend learning for kids. As Paul Revel said to us, 80% of kids' awake time is not in school. So if you look at the budget in terms of how we spend our money. We're spending the vast majority of it on the 20% obviously of school time, but there's a lot we could do with the out of school time. So finally, where would we find funding for expanded initiatives? I encourage you to really look at the K-8 program and think about consolidating middle grades. If we were had a more efficient distribution of kids to classrooms, then we could find funds for many of the important wraparound services that kids need. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're at the tail end here. Thank you all for coming tonight. I want to just reemphasize a couple of things. Yes, oh, yes, Superintendent.
So to the question about the Boston Debate League, so the Boston Debate League is the Boston Debate League, so it's the same one that is in Boston. The vast majority of the $20,000 is actually directly to the teachers. It's through the stipends. It also pays for the transportation for the kids to the different debates, and it also pays for the facilities that host those debates. So it's pretty much a direct pass-through. That's then complemented with all the funds that Boston Debate League raises. And we're looking to expand that slightly for next year, based on just the tremendous response from our students and families from this year. In terms of the assistant special education director, that is funded, that is actually posted right now, and the screening for that should begin over the next couple of weeks. To Ms. Marshall, we have increased the hourly wage to $17 in this budget, which our hope is that that will be enough to be able to get some. I also want to say that we're working in a very exciting way in partnership with the Shaw Foundation. This is a new partnership for us, and one of their sole commitments is around bringing healthy food to families and to students. So we're actually looking at creating some supper programming in our schools, because it's great that we can feed the kids in the afternoon and do the snack, but it would be more powerful when kids are getting picked up at the end of the after-school time and the out-of-school time to be able to have the whole family eat. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. I know that's a clear passion of yours, so we may come back to you on that one. And I just want to say that it's been a privilege to work with Jocelyn and several of the other parents. We are deeply committed to wanting to mitigate whatever is happening currently, as well as build to the future. So I think our parent group will continue to work toward that, as will our schools, and I echo your comments. So thank you for those. And to Mr. Nadeau, as always, you are on point. I think that the out-of-school time is an area that, with the By All Means work, we will continue to work towards, so that all students have those opportunities. And one exciting thing at the college and career level is that we have a new partnership. So in addition to supporting through the budget another college and career counselor, we are partnering with the college advising corps. And so we will be getting a full-time college advising corps, as well as expanding your Aspire services at the high school. So while we will not get to that full ratio of that other school, we are working very hard to increase the services to our students, particularly our first generation students going on to college. So we hope to make a good effort in that area. And thank you, and to Max for his passion for that. Thank you. Oh, groundwork. So we know that groundwork is within the Capilano budget, but I was actually talking to Director Gorski. We need to go back and look to see whether or not we're able to expand a little bit more in there. So, but it is in the Capilano budget as an expansion.
So thank you all for coming tonight. This is an important part of the process, just to share the budget with the public. I think there are probably 1,000 people watching on the television right now. Hundreds of thousands, 80,000 people in the city. As a reminder, May 7 next week, we'll be deliberating on this, on what we saw tonight. And then May 21st is when this body will vote on approval of this budget. That would then be forwarded to the City Council. May 13 and May 20 at City Hall at 7 p.m. Would be opportunities for the public to say a little bit more if you weren't able to make it tonight. Thank you for your attendance, and did I miss something?
Mr.
Right.
Michelle,
Yes.
if I could just mention that we have one team member that's missing, and that is Susanna Morgan. She's our grant and partnership coordinator. And so all of those dollars that you saw up on that screen in the millions is because of a lot of Susanna's hard work. She's actually with the Somerville High School bar team right now up there in Portland, Maine. And they are studying what project-based learning would look like at the high school. So I just want to make sure that we mention her.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. The meeting is adjourned.
Good job, guys.